Hello and welcome back to this series, What If? Daily Contemplations for Life Change. And before I go into it, I just want to remind you that wherever you are and how many of you have watched these and maybe you've connected with the blogs as well, is that sometimes just the power of contemplation gives us that space to start making some changes. We have this amazing brain in our bodies that connects with our soul, our essence, our spirituality, whatever you want to call it. And when we can bring those two powers together, we have the ability to make magic in our lives. And my intention for this series was really to be able to get you to look at something from a different perspective. If there's an area of your life where you're not happy, if you're unfulfilled, if you're feeling a little bit lost, that these contemplations give you a way of opening new doorways. And there may be one or several of them that really resonate with you. So go back and reread them. Go back and use the exercises as journal questions. Or maybe get your friends together and have a little bit of a conversation around it. Maybe set yourself up a Facebook group. Because daily contemplation, daily review and analysis of where we are, and most importantly, how we're feeling and what's going inside for us, is the absolute foundation of us creating a life and a business and income, whatever area that is that you'll come to me for. It gives us a chance to create something magical with that. So let's go on with today's contemplation. What if I am kinder to myself? Now, I wrote this one recently after really struggling over the last few days with getting myself into a complete funk. Now, those of you that have followed me or that are in my group, maybe you've read my blogs before, will know that I don't do funk very well. I am really well trained in my mastery. It's what I coach. But every now and again, we are human and we are spiritual and we may find ourselves triggered. Now, what I learned from Abraham Hicks in this process of going through this 5-day kind of funk was that, you might be able to hear my dog drinking her water now, was that we should be grateful for the ability that we've reached a consciousness where we can tap into that inner emotional compass and say, something's not right. Where has this come from? I'm feeling really kind of triggered by that. And that's what I did. And I spent some days not searching for the answer, not going back and spending time in the past, but saying, why has this triggered me? And what am I learning from it? What I learned from there was that I had to be kinder to myself. As you will know from some of the other episodes in this series, I am somebody who struggles to slow down. I'm 24/7. Even doing these videos, I'm consciously having to slow my voice down because when I get passionate, people don't understand me because I'm trying to get my words out as quickly as my mind is processing it. So I'm sure you can recognise an area or maybe more than one area of your life when you are consistently hard on yourself. Maybe it's that constant berating of yourself for being overweight, for not looking the right way. Maybe you tell yourself you're not intelligent enough. That's something that I've struggled with along with my weight. Or is it frustration about your slow progress? So interesting as I read this back to you now, I recognise that as I wrote this, it was really an internal dialogue because they were the areas that I was feeling quite compressed about. So let me ask you how it feels when we ask the question, what if I were kinder to myself? Why do I find it so hard to be kinder to myself? We're wired that way. We're brought up that way from our childhood. At a young age, we're unable to filter our conversation and the information. So literally, as we are bombarded with information, we are like sponges in the first few years of our life. We literally believe what we see. If we didn't, we might question that Santa comes down the chimney when we don't have a chimney. We might question that Santa can get round the whole of the world through different time zones in one evening, right? But we don't, because we believe what those people around us that are important to us, we believe what they tell us. We believe when we see an action, we take a meaning from that when we see that action over and over again. So let me tell you a few personal examples, and I hope that you can kind of relate. As I was growing up, my mother was always on a diet. She was always at Slimming Club. There was a whole conversation around cheating when you came home and kind of eating everything you hadn't eaten in the week. I've got an older sister and she was suffering with anorexia. So it was no surprise that when I got to a teenager and went to an all-girls school, I suddenly hated my slightly rounded teenage body that my nan and my mum had always said was puppy fat and would come off, which it didn't. So I concluded not only was I not worthy because I didn't look right, but that lack of worth manifested through my entire life, right through into my business. My father, when my sister and I came along, we're twins, right? So when we came along, we were a little bit of a shock. And my dad went out and had to do 3 jobs to make ends meet and to support for his family. So there was always a conversation around, you have to work hard for money. You don't get something for nothing, right? And it was kind of like that whole, love and money thing. You can have one or the other. I didn't realise the impact of that until I was a business owner. And I felt so dirty wanting to make money doing something that I really loved. And as a twin, I heard so many times about how my twin sister, and it was never done intentionally, but it was the background conversation that my twin sister was naturally more intelligent than me. I had to be squeezed into the grammar school because my mum didn't want us going to separate schools. So you can see, consequently, how I felt really disempowered about my level of intelligence, and that was one of the triggers that came up for me this week. So being kind with yourself starts with one fundamental process, and that's understanding the truth. We are implanted with beliefs that don't belong to us. They're the views and the opinions of the people that bring us up, that are influential in our lives, our teachers, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, what we would have seen on television growing up, certainly not social media because that wasn't around. But ultimately what it is your first step to unlocking the limiting beliefs is that you have to understand the negative behaviour. So we find the negative behaviour and we can dig deeper and find out what's that limiting belief underneath there. Let me explain that a little bit deeper for you. So say, for instance, if you were like me, you've spent years, I don't do it now, but you've spent years on a diet. So I spent 20 years not eating very well, starving myself, binging, all those kind of things. And maybe you do a few days or a few weeks and you lose maybe half a stone. And then you feel like you're doing okay and you go for a weekend away with your husband and you slip off, and before you know it, that weight's gone on again and you go, I'll start Monday. But in that process, there is that self-hate, there is that loathing, there is that, oh my God, I can't do this. Why is this so difficult? And we start over and over again and we have that same negative conversation with ourselves. What I see with my clients very often is that they don't believe that they're doing enough. They're not earning enough yet. They're not going quick enough yet. They're looking at social media, these business women that have made 6 figures plus in a year, and they look amazing. They've got great photographs and everything's, all their website and their branding looks amazing. And they go, but I'm nowhere near that and I can't see how that's going to happen. And they berate themselves, work harder, and become exhausted. The other thing is that maybe you're somebody, and this relates to me as well. So something that I was very triggered by was the fact that I wasn't a very good mother. I suffered with very bad postnatal depression when I had my children. And I was aware that I wasn't in that space to be the mother that I wanted to be. So I compared myself to my mum, who I believe was very much a natural mother. But you all know those mums that not only do they always look incredibly amazing, they make the most incredible outfits from scratch for World Book Day, right? Which is annoying. They make cakes like Mary Berry, and they look amazing and they taste amazing. They're under control, and yet you rush up to the school gates with your hair a mess. You probably haven't even put any makeup on. Your kids have got cheese spread sandwiches that you've just made as you run out the door, and you haven't even thought about what you look like. And then you look at those people and you think, why can't I be more like that? So the question is to say to yourself, well, what is the belief underneath that? What is the belief that's driving that behaviour that you can't accept yourself right now? So is the belief that you have to be a certain size to be happy, to be successful or to be beautiful? Because that's a common lie, isn't it? That we see more and more of in social media, that you need to look a certain way. Perhaps you've been told that you need to look a certain way to be loved. And because of that deep-rooted belief, you choose to stay lonely, or you choose to keep picking the most destructive relationships that you can possibly find because you don't feel worthy, because you don't look a certain way. Maybe you've heard that people that can't control their food are lazy, right? Or they're worthless because, well, if they can't control that, they've got no self-respect. I've heard that one many times. Maybe the lie you're trying to live is that success is a number figure, that you're not successful unless you're earning 6 figures, that you're not successful if you haven't got 10,000 people on your page or in your group, that you're not successful if you're not working 4 hours a day sitting on a beach. Okay? And perhaps the biggest belief that destroys so many women is that we are supposed to be super women. We are supposed to be great in the kitchen and in the bedroom. We're supposed to be earth mother, a master baker, killer businesswoman or killer career woman, and that empathetic friend that's always got time for everybody and does amazing dinner parties. It's a little bit like, what was that program? Cold Feet. So it's exhausting and soul destroying, and it has to stop. And it has to start with being kinder to yourself. So what is the truth? The ultimate truth that I want you to remember from this video, if you only remember one thing, is that you are priceless. There is nothing that makes anybody worth more than somebody else. We've just been wired to believe this is true. So only you decide your worth. And that has to be complete and utter self-acceptance and self-love. So what if you chose right now to completely and utterly be kinder to yourself and to accept yourself? So living this truth means that you can say, yes, I am kind to myself. Yes, I choose the pathway that brings me joy. Yes, I understand that I can improve this, that and the other in my life, but I'm deciding to do that from a space of love for myself and not from comparison to others. I'm going to repeat that. I believe that I know that I can improve X, Y and Z in my life, but I am deciding right now to do that from a space of deep love for myself and not from a space of comparison with others. Remember that comparison is the thief of joy, personal growth, and self-actualization. And as I said that, the clock went 11:11, so that's profound. Comparison is a thief of joy, personal growth, and self-actualization. So let me just give you the exercises for today. Make a list of all of the areas where you are hard on yourself. Go through the main areas of your life, including love and relationships, health and well-being, finances, career and business, passion and purpose, personal development. Where do you commonly berate, ridicule, or hate on yourself? Spend some time thinking about the lie that instigates this behaviour. What are you really afraid of? What belief is not serving you to live your happiest, most fulfilling life? Finding that out is a massive key to change. Now ask yourself, if that belief were no longer available to me, then what? What would you have to believe instead? What would you be doing that you don't do now? Or what would you not be doing that you do now? How different would you feel? What impact would that have on your life now and in the future? What feels better to you? To continue being hard on yourself, or to be kind to the beautiful soul that you really are? Make a list of new actions or non-actions that you can begin right now that will inform your mind that it's time to do things differently. And your mantra to go with today's episode is, in choosing to be kinder to myself, I decide that I am worthy. In choosing to be kinder to myself, I decide that I am worthy. So as always, I would love to hear your comments. Please come over to my Facebook group and share with your friends. And until tomorrow, take care for now.